What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the two new upcoming packages. Part one, the physical infrastructure package, which is now passed the Senate and will be moving on to the House of Representatives. And part two, the next stimulus package, which is $3.5 trillion and is currently being negotiated on and is in the voting process in the Senate. The Senate has taken on two procedural votes and the two procedural votes has passed. That is just part of the voting process. It has not fully passed the Senate. The bill has not even been written yet in the Senate, and that is kind of all part of the negotiation process for this next stimulus package. We have several different controversial things going on in our country and in Washington, D.C. that we're going to go over in this video. Number one, a very controversial raise with the House of Representatives and Nancy Pelosi. We will go over in this video, as well as the troops being withdrawn from Afghanistan, which is obviously the major news today. It is very, very important to note, of course, we always have the age-old battle of Democrats versus Republicans. And of course, whenever we have a Democratic president in office, we always have the Republicans criticizing them. And whenever we have a Republican president in office, we always have Democrats criticizing them. I kind of feel like I have the advantage of not being a Republican and not being a Democrat. And if you've been watching this show for a while, since last year, you know this is very true because last year when we had a Republican president, and this year when we have a Democratic president. If you've been watching me from last year, you'll know this is very true, that I am not a Republican, I am not a Democrat. And you'll know this is just true if you've been watching me since last year. I consider myself a realist, and that's why I think it's very important to state, in the case of this U.S. troops withdrawing from Afghanistan, which is obviously the major issue of today. I mean, obviously it's a bigger issue than just today, but it's the major story for today, that former President Donald Trump actually issued the order to withdraw from Afghanistan while he was still president. And you're going to hear Biden talk about that here. We're going to play a couple-minute clip here from President Biden talking about what is going on here with our country withdrawing from Afghanistan. But it's very important to know because obviously Republicans, and if you're a Republican, a lot of Republicans are criticizing Biden very, very heavily from withdrawing from Afghanistan. I think the majority of people think that it's time to withdraw from Afghanistan. We've been there for 20 years. Most people think it's not really our war to fight. Most people think it's time to bring our troops home. Most people think it's time to stop spending billions and trillions of dollars over and over and over and over again. I mean, are we going to just continue to spend billions and trillions of dollars over and over and over and over and over again? And again, if we don't withdraw now, when do we withdraw? Do we withdraw next year or the year after or the year after or the year after? Or, I mean, if we send more troops there now and we withdraw next year, the same thing happens. So, if we withdraw 2 or 3, 4 more years from now, the same thing's going to happen. That's the biggest problem that we're having. And I really think that the easiest way to look at this is if both former President Trump, his order was to withdraw from Afghanistan, and current President Biden's order was to withdraw from Afghanistan. Very rarely do you see them agree on anything. It's probably the right decision. We've been there for almost 20 years. And I don't know, we've just lost so many lives and we spent so many trillions of dollars, billions and trillions of dollars. You can let me know your thoughts. Here's President Biden on the issue.
Good afternoon. I want to speak today to the unfolding situation in Afghanistan, the developments that have taken place in the last week, and the steps we're taking to address the rapidly evolving events. My national security team and I have been closely monitoring the situation on the ground in Afghanistan and moving quickly to execute the plans we had put in place to respond to every constituency, including contingency, including the rapid collapse we're seeing now. I'll speak more in a moment about the specific steps we're taking. but I want to remind everyone how we got here and what America's interests are in Afghanistan. We went to Afghanistan almost 20 years ago with clear goals. Get those who attacked us on September 11, 2001, and make sure al-Qaeda could not use Afghanistan as a base from which to attack us again. We did that. We severely degraded al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. We never gave up the hunt for Osama bin Laden, and we got him. That was a decade ago. Our mission in Afghanistan was never supposed to have been nation building. It was never supposed to be creating a unified, centralized democracy. Our only vital national interest in Afghanistan remains today what it has always been: preventing a terrorist attack on America's homeland. I've argued for many years that our mission should be narrowly focused on counterterrorism, not counterinsurgency or nation building. That's why I opposed the surge when it was proposed in 2009 when I was vice president. And that's why, as president, I'm adamant that we focus on the threats we face today in 2021, not yesterday's threats. Today, the terrorist threat has metastasized well beyond Afghanistan. Al-Shabaab in Somalia, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, al-Nusra in Syria, ISIS attempting to create a caliphate in Syria and Iraq, and establishing affiliates in multiple countries in Africa and Asia. These threats warrant our attention and our resources. We conduct effective counterterrorism missions against terrorist groups in multiple countries where we don't have permanent military presence. If necessary, we'll do the same in Afghanistan. We've developed counterterrorism over-the-horizon capability that will allow us to keep our eyes firmly fixed on the direct threats to the United States and the region, and act quickly and decisively if needed. When I came into office, I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the Taliban. Under his agreement, U.S. forces would be out of Afghanistan by May 1, 2021, just a little over 3 months after I took office. U.S. forces had already drawn down during the Trump administration from roughly 15,500 American forces to 2,500 troops in country. And the Taliban was at its strongest militarily since 2001. The choice I had to make as your president was either to follow through on that agreement or be prepared to go back to fighting the Taliban in the middle of the spring fighting season. There would have been no ceasefire after May 1. There was no agreement protecting our forces after May 1. There was no status quo of stability without American casualties after May 1. There was only the cold reality of either following through on the agreement to withdraw our forces or escalating the conflict and sending thousands more American troops back into combat in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so his speech is like 20 minutes long. I can't show the whole thing. You can look it up on the White House YouTube page if you want to watch the whole thing. But yeah, you can let me know your thoughts on this. Obviously, everybody has very strong opinions on this. Obviously, Republicans are very critical of President Biden, just like Democrats were very critical of former President Trump. I tend to find myself more neutral on both, because again, I don't consider myself a far left Democrat, or I don't consider myself a far right Republican. Sometimes I agree with Republicans. Sometimes I agree with Democrats. But in this particular case, I kind of agree with both presidents because both presidents agree to withdraw out of Afghanistan. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that. So that's kind of my message here, that both of them agree to withdraw out of Afghanistan. And I think that's the right decision as well, is to bring our troops home, stop spending billions and trillions of dollars on a foreign war, and spend it at home. Speaking of spending money at home, I want to bring to you guys a controversial issue that a friend of mine, Steven, a YouTuber, kind of brought to light that I didn't even know about until today. Check this out. As you can see, this headline, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who's the leading Democrat in the House of Representatives, announces that House of Representatives staff can make more money than members of Congress. She announced a raise for House of Representatives staff. Now, this is very controversial. It's a raise, but I think this might be a little bit misconstrued. And again, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican, so I have no problem bringing up dirt on either party or on Congress themselves. But let me kind of show you here what this is. This is from Fox News, so this does tend to be a little bit derogatory towards Democrats, just to be fair to everybody here. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Thursday announced a major pay boost for top House staff members that allow them to make more money than elected members of Congress. Okay, so note that from what I understand, this is not for the actual congressmen or congresswomen, but it's actually for the staffers. So it's not for people like Nancy Pelosi or Kevin McCarthy or it's not for the actual congressmen or congresswomen from the House of Representatives, but it's actually for their staffers, like their aides. Like people like aides. I don't know any other easy way to say it, but staffers, like people that would apply for jobs there. Okay. Nancy Pelosi said that the maximum pay rate for staff would be $199,300, up 15% from the current cap of $173,900. Now, note that not everybody makes that. That would be for like very technical senior representatives that have like very high paying jobs, okay? The pay boost means that top staffers will actually be allowed to make more money than their bosses, aka the congressmen and congresswomen. The pay for a member of Congress has been $174,000 since 2009, with some variance for leadership positions. So I just wanted to make this clear that this is actually not a pay raise for congressmen and congresswomen. It's actually a pay raise for their staff. As you can see here, Nancy Pelosi announces House staff can make more money than members of Congress. And I'm not applauding this by any means. As I said, this is very controversial. But they did give a pay raise to the people who work at the House of Representatives, not the congressmen or congresswomen, but their staff. In a letter Thursday to House members, Pelosi said that the increase was needed to maintain the best talent on Capitol Hill. Now, note I said those are the top amounts. As you can see here, there continues to be a big disparity between the salary levels of top employees and entry level positions. It's not like every single person you can go apply there and just start making $199,000. House chief of staffs have a median wage of $152,000, whereas communication specialists, which actually sounds like a pretty good job, like you would need a degree there and stuff, make on average $32,400, according to a congressional salary data from Legi Storm. Also, the new maximum salary announcement does not mean an automatic pay raise for all employees, just the flexibility for members of Congress to give their top employees more money for them. And again, from what I understand, that this is for staff that works there, not for the actual congressmen or congresswomen. So again, I seen a lot of comments and I seen this kind of erupted today as a big story. So I wanted to read you guys the actual story from Fox News so that you guys could understand this. I understand it's a very controversial issue. So I wanted to show it to you guys in black and white so you guys kind of knew what was going on with that. Because again, I'm not from either party, Democrats or Republicans. Again, this is not just for Democrats or it's for both everybody from the House of Representatives, because obviously it's Democrats and Republicans from the House, and it's actually for the staff not the actual elected officials like Nancy Pelosi or Kevin McCarthy that work at the House of Representatives. Now, with that being said, obviously there must be enough money if they have money to give raises to people, even if it's not the congressman, if it's the staff, there must be enough money to give raises. I mean, if there's enough money going around, there must be enough money to give raises to the average everyday people. The good news is we did see a raise announced today. If you watched my morning video or my evening video from last night, they did give a raise to 40 million people in SNAP benefits. So 40 million people got announced a raise in SNAP benefits, and this is 40 million people, so it is pretty good. Now, this raise will be going in effect, from what I understand, in October. Yeah, in October. So it's going to take about a month to go into effect. Food stamp benefits to permanently expand by over 25% in October. Yeah, so the cool thing is it's a permanent raise. It's the largest raise ever. 25%. The largest raise ever. And the best thing about it is it's a permanent raise. A permanent raise. Now, if you only get, say, $20 a month in food stamps, it's not really a big raise. That would only be a raise of, say, $5 a month times 12 months. That's only going to be like a $60 a month raise, or $60 a year raise. Sorry, $5 a month times 12 months would be $60 a year. Uh, it's nothing crazy. $60 a year is better than no $60 a year. $60, better than nothing. But the average person, from what the articles I've read, it gets about $121 a month. So in that case, you're going to get $36 a month raise, which equates to about $436 a year, every single year per person. So if you're a family of two, you're looking at 800 and some dollars per year raise. Pretty decent, pretty decent. If you're a family of four, you're looking at like $1,600 a year in SNAP raises. So this is the third kind of stimulus item, stimulus provision that they have announced in the last 3 weeks. The SNAP raise. Number two would be that the federal eviction moratorium was emergencyly extended. Emergencyly, that's an interesting word. That President Biden and the CDC extended the eviction moratorium until October 3rd. This is going to probably be challenged here. It was just challenged, and a district court upheld it. I'm expecting several more legal challenges for this to be challenged in the Supreme Court. I'll keep you up to date on that. Also, the unemployment is set to expire on September 6th. So we'll see if that will be extended as well. But this was the second kind of emergency stimulus that was just extended for about 10 to 15 million people. That was just extended on August 3rd for 2 months until October 3rd. And the student loan relief, or the student loan payment pause and interest pause, was just extended as well, just in the past week or so, until January of 2021. So if you have student loans, which is also over 40 million people, you basically don't have to pay your student loans if you have government student loans, which again is over 40 million people. Also, the SNAP increase is for 40 million people as well. Those two groups is 40 million people, and 40 million people is over 80 million people. The eviction moratorium is 10 to 15 million people. That's over 100 million people that have gotten some type of stimulus provision in the last 2 weeks alone, that they've helped out just in the last 2 weeks. And that's with the next stimulus package still coming out. That's without even the stimulus provision, the stimulus package. That's still yet to come. And we have the big Social Security bump that's going to be coming out in October, the COLA raise that is expected to be over 6%, which would be the largest Social Security cost of living adjustment in over 30 years. Yeah, so it's expected to be over 6%. We won't know the exact number until we get that. But last year was only 1.3 1.2 or 1.3% last year. So that would be over 4 times higher than it was last year. There's also 2 or 3 different proposals to raise Social Security benefits. One, by $200 per month, and two, President Biden has a Social Security benefit proposal to raise the minimum amount of Social Security benefits to $1,341 per month. Actually, I have a couple different videos. I will link you to that here in a minute here. But if you're new to the channel, of course, with the next stimulus check possible, the child tax credit extension possible, they're saying there's going to be an adult tax credit here in this next stimulus package as well. Remember, the next stimulus package is going to be $3.5 trillion or somewhere around there. They're going to negotiate on it. There's a lot of Democrats that want it to be more. There's a couple Democrats that want it to be less. Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. Dun, dun, dun. There's a couple Democrats from the House of Representatives that are like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema as well. There's more Democrats that actually want it to be more. There's only a few moderate Democrats. There's around 7 or 9 of them in the House and only 2 in the Senate. But there's actually more what they call progressive Democrats that actually want the packages to be higher. So that's where kind of the negotiations come in, because you really need all the Democrats to agree. So even Democrats, and that's why it's so hard to bypass the filibuster when you have to get Republicans and Democrats to agree, because basically Republicans and Democrats are like so far different, right? When you look at like former President Trump and Biden, current President Biden, they're just like, they see things completely different. That's why when you see something like they both agree to withdraw from Afghanistan, it's like, wait, they agree on something? Like, oh my God, it's a miracle, right? So like when you see them both agree on something, you're like, wait, if they both agree on something, it's gotta be true, right? Like, because like they never agree on anything. And that's why it's so hard to get Republicans and Democrats to agree, let alone all the Democrats. So yeah, so they're going to eventually get all the Democrats to agree on everything, but it's just even the moderates and the progressives, you have some Democrats saying the package should be 6 trillion. And then you have some Democrats saying, no, it should be less than 3.5 trillion. And then you got to agree on everything. Where should the money be spent? Stimulus checks. How much should it be? What about child tax credits? What about adult tax credits? What about climate change? What about this, that, and the other things, right? So that's kind of where all the details, and that's kind of the process they're going through now. And then when the Senate passes it, then you're going to have the House of Representatives saying, well, I don't know, I think we might need to change this detail and change that detail, and that's kind of like this whole process of kind of how everything goes down. So let me know your thoughts. I will keep you up to date on everything, what's going on in Washington, D.C., what's going on with all this controversy. And the cool thing is I have no affiliation with either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. So I can tell you the truth on either party because I have no affiliation with either. And I've been saying the same thing since when former President Trump was the president. And I can tell you the same thing when now that Biden's the president. I have no affiliation with Nancy Pelosi or with Mitch McConnell. They're both like 80 years old. So it really doesn't matter to me, either one of them. So eventually they're both going to retire either way, and then somebody new is going to take their place either way. So let me know your thoughts. I'll keep you up to date with everything going on with this next stimulus package, going on in Washington, D.C., and going on with our country. So make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. Remember, new videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus package or stimulus video next. This bottom video is the new changes about the SNAP increases. If you're on SNAP, make sure to watch that if you haven't yet. And this video is about the newest video about the Social Security increases. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.